So there are a couple of things that are important to be clear about when it comes to the practice of meditation and when it comes to the practice of paying attention and the process of awakening. One thing that it's important to be clear about is that you're not an exception. That one of the reasons that the masters and the great teachers taught what they taught after awakening was because the part of what they became aware of is that all human beings have the same potential for this awakening. All human beings have the same potential for this awakening. That's why they taught after they had the experience of being awake. And so it's important for you to allow yourself to understand that you're not an exception to the rule, that you have the potential to awaken. You have the potential to experience what you are. And you have the potential to experience living a life that's fulfilled. It's very important for you to allow yourself to be clear about that. And then it's important for you to allow yourself to recognize what's called for, what's it take, to realize this possibility. And I'm happy to report to you that since I've been teaching these teachings and teaching meditation, that there have been people that I have worked with that woke up. So that's very validating, that it's an indication that it's true. And I paid close attention to these people when they woke up because I wanted to see if I could recognize what had it work, what had it happen for them. And one thing that became apparent when I was looking at this in regard to the people that woke up was that they recognized the possibility. They recognized that it was a possibility for them, right? Because if you really recognize, see, the personality will try and talk you away from this, talk you out of the idea that you can wake up, that you can wake up, that you can be happy, you can be fulfilled in this life. The personality will bring up the ifs and the buts, right, about it. Yes, but. Or what about this? And isn't this the problem? The personality wants to keep you on track to thinking about this instead of experiencing the truth. And these people that woke up, when I looked at, what could I see about what worked there? One was that it was clear that they both truly recognized and took on board the understanding that they could have this, that they could really have this. I mean, if you look at it and you really allow it in, you really allow yourself to get what this is about, what this possibility is about, it's about everything you ever wanted. It's about everything you ever wanted. So if you get what this is, and you get that it's about everything you ever wanted, because if you look at your life, everything you've ever wanted in your life, you wanted so it could fulfill your interest in experiencing your life as being fulfilled, as being happy, as being peaceful, as being satisfied. Everything you've ever done. If you look at your life, every job you ever had, every relationship you were ever in, everything you ever purchased, everything you endeavored, every goal you set, was intended for you to have this experience. So if you understand the teachings are trying to get it through your head that this is available, this is real, it's actually available to you. Right now, it's available to you. So that's one of the criteria, that you have to really be clear that what this is and that it's available to you, that you're not an exception. And then another thing that's important to get, I mean, if you get that, then the second thing falls out of that, really. If you get that, the second thing falls out of that. What's the second thing? The second thing is, if you really get that this is available to you and it's everything you ever wanted, the second thing will be, can you stay aware of that consistently? Can you stay aware of that consistently? Can you pay attention to what's happening in the mental state and in the emotional experience and in the physicality, in the sensations in the body, in the images in the mind? Can you pay attention to all of the movie that's playing consistently so you could be aware of your relationship to that movie, so you could be aware of your relationship to the thought process and the emotions and so forth? Because one of the other things that I recognized about the two people that I'm referring to here is that they took this on and made it a project that was the most important project in their life. And in both cases of these two people, they were suffering. You know, they were suffering more than your average bear. They were suffering. Right? So one of the things that it showed me is that no matter how much suffering you're involved with, no matter how bad off you think you are in terms of your anxiety or your depression, you know, or how bad off you think you are because of your addictions and your habits and your tendencies and your patterns of being upset a lot, and your patterns of making trouble in your life and causing conflict in your relationships. No matter how bad all that is, it doesn't change this possibility one iota. This possibility is exactly the same, no matter what's going on. So in both these cases, both these people took the project on, you know, that if this is possible for me, if I really get clear that this is possible for me, then I am going to make this project an everyday, moment-to-moment commitment that I have. I'm going to wake up in the morning to this, and I'm going to go to bed at night with this, like that. So what I'm describing when I say that is what I mentioned earlier before we did the practice, that the one thing that's going to determine the outcome, you know, if you're invested in this possibility and you're practicing meditation and you're listening to teachings, right? The one thing that's going to determine the outcome is whether or not you can maintain the commitment, whether or not you can persist, whether or not you can continue authentically and sincerely and earnestly to continue to do this practice, continue to look at what's happening. And in both these cases, you know, these individuals did that. It was evident to me that they did that. That they took this commitment on, that they weren't doing it as a hobby. They weren't doing it once in a while. They weren't doing it when they thought to do it. They weren't doing it when they felt like doing it. No, they were doing it all the time, all the time. And as a result of that, as a result of the fact that the attitude they had about it was that no matter what, because the reality of it is, if you really let it in, the reality of it is that what this is about, what this possibility is talking about, is the fact that no matter what the circumstances are, that your experience can consistently be one of being fulfilled, being satisfied, and being at peace, no matter what the circumstances are. And this can, you know, the reason that this is important to understand the commitment that's necessary to realize this is that it will be a confusing process as you engage with it. It will be a confusing process, right? You will think that there's something you can do, right, to get this to happen. You will think that there's something you can do to get this to happen. You will think that the way this works is that when the time comes that you don't have the disturbing thought, when the time comes that you don't feel the upsetting emotion, when that time comes, then you'll be there, then you'll have gotten there. Well, but that's a source of confusion because that's not how this works. The way this works is even when there's disturbing thoughts that are occurring, even when fear comes up, even when anger comes up, right? You're experiencing the emotions, you're aware of the thought process, right? And it's not to say that the thought process has to change or the thought process has to stop or the emotions have to be different than they are. It's not to say any of that. It's to say the experience of those thoughts and those emotions when you're being what you are is that they don't affect you. They don't disturb the peace that you have. They don't disturb the satisfaction that you have. They don't disturb the state of well-being that you're in, even while they're happening. Even while they're happening. So what that means is you could experience fear and not be afraid. You could experience fear and not be afraid. You could experience anger and not be angry. Because when your orientation is the awareness is aware of what's happening, but it's not experiencing what's happening. It's aware of the thoughts, it's aware of the emotions, but it's not the one feeling the feelings anymore. It's not the thinker of the thoughts anymore, right? So it's free. That's what the freedom and the liberation about. It's free. You're out of the movie. You're out of the movie. Instead of thinking you're in the movie's still playing, and when the movie's good, the movie's good. When the movie's bad, the movie's bad. When it's exciting, it's exciting. When it's depression, it's depressing. The movie continues. The drama goes on. It'll go on for the rest of your life. The thing that shifts is that you're not in the movie anymore. Your orientation is that you're the audience now instead of being in the movie. When you're practicing being who you are, what happens by itself is the content of your experience starts to change in relationship to your being different. That happens by itself. So what was causing you to be angry, right? When you're free from experiencing that anger, right? What was causing you to be angry starts occurring to you differently. And when it occurs to you differently, you don't have the same reaction. See, the way the personality has it is that has to change first, and then I'll be free. Right? I have to stop having anger, and then I'll be free. I have to stop experiencing disturbing thoughts, and then I'll be free. Right? Personality talks about it like that, because the personality can't possibly understand or know what it's like to be who you really are. The personality can't. It's a conditioned operation. It's a conditioned operation in which the way things occur to it is the way things are happening has to change, and then I'll be okay. And when I say the way things are happening, I mean what's happening in my head, thought-wise, what's happening in my body, sensation-wise, what's happening in my emotions. You know, that has to change. You know, this is a misunderstanding about the teachings, right? That has to change. When that changes, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be at peace. Then I'll be able to be happy and enjoy myself. That's a misunderstanding. No. The reality of it is when you experience your true nature, that can continue to happen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the anger can come up, the disturbing thoughts can come up, right? But they're not happening to you, they're just happening. They're not happening to you anymore because who you are is not who you thought you were. They're not happening to you anymore. And because they're not happening to you anymore, when they happen, see, this is a little tricky. When they happen, you're not being what they are. You know, when anger happens, you can be aware of the anger, you can feel the anger, but you're not angry. Because the awareness doesn't have emotions. The awareness doesn't think. It just is. It is just present to what's happening. It's the awareness of what's happening, not what's happening. That's the transition. And when you're experiencing yourself as the awareness of what's happening rather than the content, when you're experiencing yourself as the awareness of what's happening instead of what's happening, therein lies the freedom. And what's happening starts to change because your way of relating to it is different. Because you're not being angry, right? Because you're not being angry, you stop feeling compelled to act out the anger because you're not being angry. Because you're not being angry, you can see the anger play, and you can see the situation that is occurring, and you can see the person you're angry with, and you can feel the anger, right? But you're not angry, right? This is the transformation. This is the transcendental experience. You're experiencing tranquility. You're experiencing the tranquility and the wisdom that is natural to your state of being. You're experiencing the tranquility and the wisdom that is natural to your state of being. While the anger is there. While it's there. So it'll come up, it'll play, it's energy. It'll come up and it'll play, right? And then it'll leave, it won't stay because you're not identified with it. You're not being angry. So the anger can come up, it's energy, it'll express itself, right? And then it'll pass. Right? But when you're being who you are in relationship to the anger, the mental process and the emotional pattern that was playing starts to reorganize itself to be consistent with who you're being now. And when that reorganizes itself to be consistent to who you're being now, gradually over time, what was causing you to feel the anger stops happening. Stops happening. So you just start to experience less upset. Less upsets. You know, when Richie Davidson was talking about that well-being is a practice, one of the things he said is a benefit of the practice of well-being is resilience. You know, that you see it sooner, that when it comes up, instead of immediately identifying with it, you see it sooner, and because you see it sooner, right, you're disengaged, you're watching it instead of being it, and when you watch it instead of being it, right, the energy that it is just finishes its expression and comes to an end because you're watching it instead of being it. So the upsets last a lot shorter time, right? And this practice, as I was saying before, this practice is a practice that necessitates your consistent paying attention to it. And it necessitates your consistent paying attention to it as you are, as what you actually are. Now, you could say, well, that's interesting. How do I pay attention to it as who I actually am, right? This is where the teaching comes in, right? Because the teaching tells you that you are what you actually are right now. You don't have to change at all. You are what you actually are right now, right? So then how do I be that in relationship to what's happening so that what's happening, right, doesn't continue to have me identify with it, continue to have me suffer, right? Well, the way you do that is to just be clear that when you're paying attention to what's happening, you're the awareness of it, not what's happening. You're learning that. You're learning that. You have a bad habit of identifying what's happening. Instead of being the awareness of what's happening, I'm part of it. You see? Instead of being aware of what's happening, I am part of what's happening, and it's happening to me. So this is something that can't change overnight. It's a gradual process. But, as I said, my observation of these two individuals that woke up and are now experiencing a consistent state of well-being. You know, one of these people said to me, this was just before he actually had the turn. He said, it's interesting that I've been paying attention to the experience of my thoughts and my emotions pretty consistently because I understand that the possibility is real. I've been paying attention to my thoughts and my emotions pretty consistently. And he said, what started to happen? The situations that occurred in my life that I know in the past would have made me crazy, would have gotten me really upset, would have had me be really angry, would have caused me to really be aggressive, to really be defensive. That stopped happening. That stopped happening, things can happen, circumstantial things can happen, and they happen, and now watch. They happen. When they happen, the reaction can still be there. That when they happen, the reaction can still be there. When they happen, the thought process can still be there, right? But because of the reorientation in terms of who you are, the fact that they're there doesn't matter. No, you may act it out.
Even if you act it out, you're seeing it from awareness?
Yes. Yes.
But you're identifying with the personality and conditioning?
Not necessarily. No, because you see, you have to understand the state of mind that you find yourself in has momentum. It's mechanical. It runs on its own, right? So as this process continues, there will be times when you get angry and you do act it out. You do say angry things. Now, one of the ways that I can tell that this person is really consistently practicing the possibility, right? As soon as they become aware that they did that, they go clean it up. They go clean it up. They have no investment in the personality. They're not trying to protect it. They're not trying to fight from it, right? So if that happens, right? If that happens and they're in the process of awakening, right? That when that happens, they realize, okay, it ran, right? I was not yet able to clearly be the awareness of it instead of identify with it, right? But I was aware of that. So after I calmed down, right, I went and did whatever I could to clean up anything that I caused. That's an indication that this person is walking the path. Yeah, this person is maintaining the commitment, persisting, no matter what, persisting with it, right? And as you do that, what happens is that what was getting you to identify with it, right, loses its ability to do that over time, right? Because you're taking a superior position with it. You're not identifying with it. But the irony of it is, and the paradox is, that you need a strong personality to do this work, right? Ego strength is one of the factors that determines whether you'll succeed, right? The very same ego that's the problem has to be strong enough to tolerate this process, because this process is challenging and confusing, and you will find yourself at times at a loss, and you'll find yourself at times feeling frustrated, like this. That's why I said what I said earlier about you're not an exception. No matter how frustrating you find the process, no matter how at a loss you feel, no matter how confused you feel, you continue to persist. That's why I said persistence is so critical to this. Persistence is so critical to this, because simply by persisting, no matter what thoughts and feelings are there, right, the persistence itself is an expression of your true nature. The persistence itself. That's why you won't give up.
But isn't persistence a personality trait?
No. Persistence is a quality of awareness. It's totally consistent, isn't it? Awareness is totally consistent, totally stable, right? So if you're persistent, you're depending on that stability. You're depending on that stability. No? The personality, that's one of the problems with the personality. It's unable to be persistent. You know, it's unable. It's impatient. It's not persistent, it's impatient. It wants to know, how long is this going to take, right? It wants to know. And if it's taking too long, it starts questioning whether it's worth it, doesn't it? Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I should just become an alcoholic. What happened was I was walking on the indoor track, you know, for the audience so they know what I'm talking about. I was walking on the indoor track. I do this every day, right? And for me, it's a form of meditation. It's a form of walking meditation. Right? So I'm practicing being aware of my body walking while I'm walking on the track. Right? So all of a sudden, this woman comes in through the door to the track, right? And I'm walking at a fairly quick pace, right? Steps right in front of me and starts walking very slowly. Right? Now, so the first thing that happened was I got pissed, right? There was a rush of anger that came up, right?
So your personality took over in the beginning?
Of course. This is what I meant before when I was saying that it's not that you don't get angry, right? The anger came up, right? But it was only a matter of seconds before I recognized what was happening, right? So the anger comes up, I'm feeling angry, and then the thought process starts to run, and the thought process saying, say something to her. Yeah. You know, ask her, didn't you see me here? You know? That's the ordinary way that things like that go, right? But I had already caught on to what was going on when the thought process was running, so I said nothing. I said nothing.
We didn't even have to pay her that much to do that.
So, and so that happened in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I just stepped around her and kept going, and that was it.
So as you're walking around the track, if she's on the track now, are you still agitated?
No.
about her?
Really?
No, none at all, none at all. As a matter of fact, by the time I walked around the track and caught up to her again, it was evident to me that whatever the deal was with her, that it was innocent. She didn't get up that morning and decide to come here and mess with me. You know what I mean? Although that's the way your mind plays it, isn't it? Yeah, that's the way your mind will play it. But you see it realistically now. You see, she's innocent. She's innocent. Right?
What if you would have fallen?
What's that?
Like, what about if you would have fallen if she hadn't been?
Then it would have been more of an interesting experience. Yeah, because then it would probably stimulate more of a reaction.
Right, if she
Okay?
like fell.
But you see, that's the whole point. That's why we're practicing with the low-hanging fruit. That's why we're practicing with what she just steps in front of me instead of somebody who, does something a lot more serious than that. But if you get good at this, no matter how serious it is that people behave, you can recover immediately and understand that they're innocent. By the time I came around the track and saw her again, I really had compassion for her because obviously she's so unaware of her environment. God knows what the hell else is going on in her life,
That's true.
So she deserves nothing but kindness and compassion. And that's available when you're awake. The personality doesn't like this. The personality doesn't want to hear that, right? Because you want to reserve your right to fight, and you want to reserve your right to be angry at people, to do things to you. You don't want to give that one up, right? Yeah, you want to have retribution. Just like the society we live in, right? We want to get back. We want to make the person suffer for what they did, right? Right? This is ignorant. That's ignorance. It's ignorance. So it's not a matter of understanding these things to the point where you're so sophisticated that you know that everybody's innocent. No, it's not that. It's a matter that you're experiencing yourself in such a way that that's evident to you when you look, that that's evident to you. And when you get triggered and when you get stimulated and when you're in the middle of a reaction, it's not to say that because there's a reaction, I must react. It's not to say that because there are angry thoughts, I must express that anger. It's not to say that. Because I'm the awareness of that, I am not that. I'm the awareness of that. I'm free from that. I'm free from having to act anything out. But in the process of establishing myself as that freedom, in the process of establishing myself as being that awakened, fulfilled consciousness and awareness, right? In the process of establishing that, I will have to go through confusion. I will have to go through failing to recognize that, and be persistent no matter what. And when I fail, and when I act out because I failed, I take full responsibility for myself. That's right. I'm not suggesting that you become a doormat. I'm not suggesting that let people just walk all over you, right? I'm suggesting that you can be free from the whole thing, and your freedom from it allows you to be more effective in how you deal with it, right? So I was advising your personality to act like it's enlightened. That's what I was doing. I was advising when I meet with my clients in my private practice, I'm advising them to act like they're enlightened. They tell me the situations in their life that aren't working, and I say, okay, try this, do this, and I give them an enlightened way of dealing with that, right? But that's piecemeal. You see what I'm saying? That's piecemeal. That's just to help people avoid unnecessary suffering. But the solution in the long run is to be the awakened one, is to be awake. So you see things as they really are, and because you see things as they really are, you're free from the effects of what's going on so that you recognize possibilities in the situation that will work. Possibilities that will work in terms of ways to behave that will work instead of cause trouble. You've got to, I saw the other day that Ramesh Balsekar was asked the question, how do you define faith, right? Because I could say you have to have faith in this. You have to have faith in the truth in order to stick it out, right? In order to get to the point where you're experiencing it for yourself and you see it works, right? So they asked him, well, how do you define faith? And his answer was, faith means that you totally accept the truth. That's faith. You may not be experiencing the truth. You may still be experiencing yourself as identified with thoughts and feelings, but you totally accept the truth. And if you totally accept the truth, your life is about getting the experience of that truth to be the experience you're living. And to totally accept the truth is a good idea, don't you think? Since it's true. You know, to not totally accept the truth is surely going to produce suffering. And if you do accept the truth, then your life should be about living a true life, living an authentic life, living a true experience of what you are. And then life starts to work. And it's not dependent upon circumstances, and those circumstances include how you feel and what thoughts occur in your mind. Those are circumstances. So even with those circumstances, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what thoughts occur. It doesn't matter what emotions occur. And if you get good at living that way, when the time comes when you're really challenged, you could say old age, sickness, and death is like a final exam for this. You know what I mean? Because it's definitely, you're all going to experience it. Everybody gets to experience that, right? And so if you get good at this, like David Radin, if you get good at this, when you get to his age, you're enjoying being that age. You're enjoying being that age because you've experienced the whole life and a whole process of evolving as a human being, right? And experiencing the truth about what you are and experiencing the truth about how life is. Yeah, and so at the end of your life, you can just enjoy yourself. You can just enjoy yourself. Doesn't matter what happens to the body. Doesn't matter what happens to the mind. Doesn't matter whether you get dementia. It doesn't matter. The awareness doesn't get dementia. Even somebody with dementia is aware, aren't they? Well, look, check them out. You know, check them out. If you interact with somebody that's got dementia, they're still aware. They're not unconscious. They're not in a coma. They're still aware. They're still aware. And really, you know, if we had a better understanding of reality, when people are in that situation, we would help them to accept the fact that it doesn't matter if you don't know who you are anymore. Don't worry about it. You're still here. Don't worry about it. But we don't deal with it that way. We get upset. Oh, they don't know who they are. You know, they don't recognize me, right? And then, you know, that turns the whole thing into a nightmare. Unnecessarily.